Well, here on the Morning Blend, every week we love to partner with Women's Care Florida for our Women's Care Wednesday segments. Now, this week we didn't get to do that because our show was covered up for news.
That's right, but our segment is too important to skip over, especially for expecting moms, so take a look.
Good morning, everyone. We are continuing our Women's Care Wednesday segment this morning with our partners, Women's Care Florida. We love being here and meeting the team of doctors that they have here. And today I'm introducing you to Dr. Kieran Rao, and he is an expert in care of high-risk pregnancies, which we're going to talk about this morning, maybe what that title is as well. But it's interesting because February is what I'm learning is International Prenatal Infection Prevention Month. That's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's very important, I think, to talk about this time of year and really all year long as well, as far as what pregnant women should be on the lookout for. And I know there's a couple different issues we're going to talk about today. So good morning, doctor.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. So let's first start. Let's talk about high-risk pregnancies first. And who do you consider high risk? Because I'm sure it probably is a lot more people than we think. Maybe the term shouldn't be as scary as maybe as it sounds.
So high-risk pregnancies, it's more of a label than anything else. It just means that you're monitored more often. You see someone like me during your pregnancy, you get more ultrasounds, more testing. We probably worry you more than a typical low-risk pregnancy. But it's usually women who either have health problems like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, or have problems with their baby, birth defects, growth problems, infections, things like that.
When it comes to disease prevention, are these women typically more at risk for some of these things that we're going to talk about today, or is it something, you know, everybody should know about?
In general, these infections are a risk for all pregnant women.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about these. This first one, I have to let you pronounce. It's CMV. That's maybe what's kind of most commonly referred to as. Explain what that is, doctor.
So CMV is cytomegalovirus. It's a relatively common virus. It's a harmless virus for most people, and probably half the population has been infected at one time or another. It usually causes like a slight cold or like a flu-like illness. But in pregnancy, it can be severe for the fetus and can actually infect the fetus and cause neurological disabilities, deafness, and even blindness.
Wow. Is there something you can do to prevent this?
So CMV or cytomegalovirus is transmitted through bodily fluids and droplets. And typically, babies and children are more likely to shed the virus, like in their saliva and secretions. So for pregnant moms to avoid transmission, washing their hands, not sharing utensils with their babies and kids is really important.
Is it something that you should get tested for to see if something is, you know, someone in the family is sick? Let's say you're pregnant and already have other kids. Like, I mean, do you need to label it right away and figure out what you're dealing with? Some
OBs will test their pregnant patients for it. It's standard, kind of in the panel of blood tests that you get at the beginning of your pregnancy.
Okay. Now let's talk about, this is something that I think a lot of pregnant women have heard about in Listeria. What are the risks there? What do we need to know about that?
So Listeria is a disease, kind of the same thing. It's relatively common. It causes, in normal people it can cause just a regular like GI upset, fever, flu-like illness. And pregnant women are probably 10 times more likely to be infected by Listeria if they're exposed to it.
Why is that?
It's probably their immune system. In pregnancy, your immune system is suppressed a little bit, so you're more prone to some of these infections. But same kind of thing as CMV, it can affect the fetus very severely. It can cause stillbirth, miscarriage, growth problems, even some birth defects, neurological issues, blindness, things like that. What
is the best way to prevent this then?
The best way to prevent this is actually to avoid certain foods. So don't drink raw and pasteurized milk or cheeses made from raw and pasteurized milk like queso or feta cheeses. Not to eat cold cuts, luncheon meats, hot dogs, things like that, unless they've been thoroughly heated.
Okay. We're almost out of time, but I want to make sure we get this in because I felt like a couple years ago this was huge. Everybody was talking about it, and that's Zika. Is that still a concern in 2019?
Zika has kind of fallen by the wayside in the news, but it's still a threat. It can cause, in women who are infected by Zika, probably 5% of pregnant women who get infected with Zika will have issues with their baby, either microcephaly, birth defects, a stillbirth, or even a miscarriage. So it's still a threat. There's still certain areas of the world where Zika is still an epidemic, Central and South America and parts of Africa. So it's still something that we worry about, even though it's not really on everyone's radar.
Well, we're just kind of scratching the surface, though, again, on what your expertise is. And I know a lot of women may have questions, or family members may have questions. We certainly encourage them to call Women's Care Florida right here. You can find that information on our website. But, Doctor, I know you're very busy, so we appreciate you taking some time to talk about these very important issues with us this morning.
No, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.